pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is a public hearing. Guess we'll open the public hearing. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to,
What's that echo?
turn it off there. Okay. What I wanted to start off with is a PowerPoint presentation that kind of goes through the process that I went through in order to get to this point. But I wanted to say that I intended to start this process trying to do it like Mike. And there's a number of things that I found as I was going through that had me ask the question why, ask the question how, ask the question about where things were. And I had a great deal of support from all of the department heads, and particularly leaned hard on Lynette to help me out through that. And together we asked why quite a bit. And I think it's something that she still asked again today on a couple of things. As I talked with the department heads about their budget, I realized that they were as confused about their budgets as I was, because they hadn't really participated in the degree of budget prep that I was asking of them, because I wanted them to be telling me how their department works and how their budget works and that sort of thing. And in the process, several have mentioned how much they've learned and how much they didn't know about their own budgets, but now they do. The process, I think, has been successful in large part because the department heads have helped me understand what I didn't know. And frankly, I came in not knowing a whole lot about Hiawatha and the budget process. And so I prepared this PowerPoint as a way of showing what we've learned together and how much I've learned about Hiawatha. In management school, finance courses, they teach us, how to really learn about an organization is to, you have to follow the money. And so in that process, I have followed the money and learned an awful lot about how the city of Hiawatha actually works. Personally, I've gone from questions when I first got here to how do you fill in the blank, to asking questions like how do we fill in the blank, which to me has been a process of assimilating myself into the organization. So in the long run, I don't think this document's perfect, but trying to grasp what things have been done and how they do them has been a challenge. I think those of us up here on the dais know that I've gone from 90 mil levy down to what we've actually come up with, and so that's been quite a challenge. So what I want to do is go through this PowerPoint. If people in the audience want to turn around and watch the screen, that would be great. So I'm going to need to do this and that. So the first thing I wanted to do is talk a little bit about tax history. 2021, the city had a mill levy at 53.012 mills. The 22 budget that we're operating under now is at 46, and the one that we're going to send to the state for 2023 is 41.087, and that is just a touch under what the revenue neutral rate looks like. So I have, for a long period of time, tried to put a bit of tax history in place so that you could look at what's going on over time. And so I went back to the 2012 assessed value for 2013 budget. And we see that mill levy's gone from 46, 47 down to 45, back to 47, up into the 50s. And then the last 2 years and the projected year back into the 40s. So that's going to be interesting. I've done the same thing for the assessed value. One of the things that I've noticed here is that the assessed value from that 2012 for the 2013 budget moved very calmly through last year. And the assessed value for the 2023 budget has gone up almost 12%. Up to this point, it's kind of averaged in the neighborhood of 3%. So there's, you all have known that there was a big change in the assessed value of property in Hiawatha and maybe Brown County as a total. So, that's basically what we're showing here. It's really, as you look at the bar chart, it's very smooth until you hit this last year, and that kind of represents the 12, almost 12% increase on assessed value. All right, so what I wanted to do in terms of hitting a budget summary is talk a little bit about the revenue neutral rate. Revenue neutral rate is related to a state law that was amended, the budget law was amended in 2019, and it has more of an impact on expenditures in trying to make everything be a little bit more transparent. At least that's what the legislature says. The budgets, we can budget no more than the same dollars from the previous year's budget. And if you go higher than the previous year's budget, you have to have special notification and special hearing, and that would have occurred in August rather than now. So there's two different cycles for that. So the county estimated our revenue neutral rate to be 41.312 mils. And that's based on the actual cash that was raised in the budget. This budget for 2023 is, as I mentioned a minute ago, 41.087, 0.225 mils lower than the revenue neutral rate. One of the questions I asked is what normally happens in the fall of every year. The assessor certifies the assessed value, and sometimes the mill levy will go up as a result of that. So the question I asked is, well, what happens if that happens? And the answer is, well, the cash or the mill levy would then be reduced back down to the 41.312. And so there would be less dollars available in the 2023 budget than I've got projected at this point. So here's what the tax levy for 2023 is going to look like. The general fund has 11.354 mils. There's no mill levy for debt service, 6.4 on library. There's no mill levy for industrial. There's a mill levy of 8.7 for parks and recreation and 14.568 for a total of 41.087. One of the things that I noticed when I first started looking at budgets was, why no debt service? Why no industrial mill levy, even though they're classified as tax supported funds? And the more that I looked at it, and particularly when I put this chart up, there was a couple of slides ago, you look at the history of what the mill levy has done over the last few years, I can see 000 quite often. So here's what the departments in the general fund look like. Administration is $1,906,000, and most of that is where we put in the cash basis reserve for the year. The police department's gone up because we're budgeting for two positions that Mickey originally, when we put the budget together, didn't have funded. And so we've kind of put that in there. The court is $85,000. Fire department is $228,000. And that includes $150,000 that I've designated for the removal of the old gas station down there by the station, because I actually had the cash in the budget to do that. Originally, I was talking about putting together a reserve fund, put $25,000 a year aside for that for the next 5 years, and then go from there. But when I found that I could do it in 2023, I said, let's go for it. So that's what I did. Light budget at $90,000. The band budget at a whopping $400. And ambulance budget, which hasn't really changed for the last couple of years, at $34,000, and code enforcement at $98,091, for a total of $2,400,409. And you'll notice I'm using pictures that I took last week to kind of highlight some of the areas that we'll be looking at. I figured that looking at some color is going to be a whole lot easier than looking at just the plain black and white and boring numbers that's going to show up there. So I've said about the fire station, that's going to go away sometime next spring, and maybe a little bit later. I don't know. Just depends on what our revenue stream looks like at the beginning of the year, so that how Patrick does his process will make a difference there, and it'll also make a difference of what the new city administrator will let him do when it comes time to do that part of the project. The next one is the library. I like to get blue sky in my pictures as well. The operation budget is basically what we've been funding for the last quite a number of years to basically do the operation of the library. Additionally, in this coming year is $35,000 that's allocated for fringe benefits for one or two of the employees that are permanent rather than part-time in that operation. We have 10 bonds that we have to deal with. Put in the 22 principal interest payment. That's pretty much the number that goes down the center. Just to the right of that is the rate for 2023. And there's not a whole lot of difference between the two sets of numbers, because principal and interest in a lot of the bonds, as you pay off principal, you're adding principal to your payment and reducing interest. And so the numbers kind of float very closely one to the other. The other thing I wanted to point out is each of these bonds also has an end date, and they go from 2024 out to 2059. Mostly those are USDA grant loan projects for water and wastewater. And as I was going through that, I found 3 of these that we really didn't have in the budget prior to that. I don't know how they got paid, but they did get paid. But the way that, I see it misspelling water again. There's when you press the letter A on the computer in the office, it doubles
Mhm.
for some reason or another. So who knows? But there is a budget or a bond that's paying off in 2026, which was related to the public safety. No, that's 24. But the next one, the 2026 ones, I'm going to talk about specifically in a little bit because they relate to economic development. Now I'm going to get to talk to them. Those two bonds, the Series 2012 water was a refinancing of a couple of bonds that were done then, and they brought some economic development elements into each of these bonds. This 2012, the 2012B, 2012 expires in 2026, 2012B expires in 2043. And those are paid for by the quarter-cent sales tax that's allocated towards economic development. Now, in 2012 series, 72% of that is allocated to the bond payment that the city has in support of the Hemisphere Corporation down the street. In 2012B, Crosswinds is allocated 29.847840 out of that. And both of these bonds have $221,000 worth of debt payment assigned to them in their respective percentages. But the 2023 estimate of revenue on the quarter sales tax is $200,000. So in a sense, the general fund is supporting these additional bonds to the tune of $200,562. So anyway, that's kind of an interesting part. Now, the sales tax expires in 2035. So the 2012 water fund expires in 2026. And so one of the things I want to recommend to you, it'll be in my transmittal to the new city administrator, and somebody's going to remember out at 2035 that there's still more bond payments that have to come out of that sales tax to pay for the support on the Hemisphere side. So I'm going to recommend that when the 2026 bond issue pays off, you start adding more principal to that particular quarter-cent sales tax that expires in 2043, so that when 2035 comes, you will have paid off the principal amount that's due at that point in time. I can remember doing that in my last job, and it was kind of fun how all of that stuff came together. But in this particular case, particularly with the sales tax expiring in 2023, somebody's going to have to plan for the additional principal payments that are going to be before the city. Okay. Parks and Recreation budget kind of looks like this: 613,000 on the revenue side, just because we've got property tax paying that. And I have an $84,000 contribution from the general fund to make that balance out right. Remember, in the last couple of budget work sessions, we've been talking about how a couple of the Parks and Rec, the pool, don't have enough revenue at this point to fully sustain themselves. And so I've got that transfer in from the general fund. Next year, when you're preparing the 2024 budget, that number may be lower, it might be higher, depends on how you look at adjusting revenue for Parks and Rec for the 2023 year. Okay. Employee benefits. This is one of the areas I had some difficulty tracking because there was one number said transfer in employee benefits, and so I had no idea what was being transferred and where it was being transferred from. And so one of the things that I wanted to do for Lynette's purpose in doing budget transfers in 2023 is identify them so that we knew so much is coming from the water fund, so much from the sewer fund, the pool, storm sewer, special highway, and whatever, so that we can track those. And you can see in the bottom part of that where that money goes. So in the non-tax funds, these are funds that do not have a property tax levy attached to them. And I've made those adjustments based on the fact that, even though we had two funds that were stated to be in the taxable fund that have not had a property tax levy for a long, long time, I've left them where they were without changing them. If I were doing this budget next year, I would actually move them to that spot as opposed to leaving them up in the tax fund. So special highway, it gets $487,000 in revenue. And we've got personal services about $167,000 and commodities going into the payment of buying things like blacktop that was just put down last week over on, is it Utah? I think that's what it is. Have to pardon me, I don't know every street name yet, but I can get around. The next one's special streets. This is paying for the construction bond. And here again, this is one in which we have the opportunity to pay additional principal to retire this bond early. We've got $400 and some odd thousand coming in revenue and a debt service of 227. So in a couple of years, we might be able to take a whole bond payment and add that to the payment that we make in that particular year and reduce the principal down. So it would expire by paying off additional principal a lot earlier than what the bond schedule says at this point. The next one is the post lantern. And basically with this one, the project has been done, but we've got $94,000, almost $600 in that fund balance. And so I've budgeted that amount as a cash amount. It's also the same that would be for in the expenditure side, so that we can use that as a way of buying more post lanterns, doing repair, doing things with traffic lights as well. Maybe not so much traffic lights, but certainly on that sort of thing. One of the things that happens with fund balances of bond projects is that they really have to go for that particular project. And it can also be used to pay for a bond payment. Well, I don't think this one is a bond payment. It was a grant. And so it is, so we've got that laid over for the future. The next one up is water treatment plant. This is the construction project that was done. And Brian and I were talking, Brad and I were talking about this, and he's got a project to help deal with the evaporation of the ponds that are out there by the treatment plant that are not going as quickly as they were projected. So we're thinking that the entire amount of this bond payment balance will go to pay for that activity. There might be a little that might need to be done in from the 2023 budget, but probably not. We just don't know yet. But this fund can be deactivated next year. The storm utility, another project that Nick did earlier this summer over by the hospital, south of the hospital. They've got a sump pump that pumps out regularly, and that's where the water is that's coming into that particular catch basin. This is a brand new project. We've got $81,000 in the on the revenue side and 78 on the expenditure side. The pool, as I mentioned before, it needs some additional support. Pool revenue does not fully cover the cost of operating a swimming pool. There are staff, there's operational supplies and that sort of thing that go towards making the running the swimming pool. So again, I had the capability of moving $50,000 from the general fund to the swimming pool fund for 2023. In talking with Stacy Jasper, we're going to have to do some things to improve revenue collections there. It's still not going to cover its total cost. I don't know of a pool in the state of Kansas or even in the United States that covers their pool operations by the fees and the charges that they have, pool passes and the daily fees and whatever for their swimming pool. So this is just one of those things. It's a quality of life thing, you know, and so if we didn't have the general fund contribution, you would have less days of pool operation, probably, or not even having to fund be able to operate the pool in the first place. So that's kind of one of those things that needs to be reviewed, and we've talked about that in the past work sessions. The water fund is one of those two funds that I've identified at this point. It is, as a utility, needs to be self-sufficient, and it's almost $150,000 short of being self-sufficient. And so I put in $148,795 as part of a rate adjustment that needs to be done in order for the water fund to stay solvent. You know, in order to, it is one of those funds that you have to have enough revenue year in and year out to pay the operations. You cannot really steal it from some other fund in order to help fund that operation. Although it is one of those that we can steal money from, and you've done that the last couple of years. And part of that goes to the swimming pool. But I'm identifying where the transfers from this one go to. It's going to the pool. It's going to pay employee benefits. It's going to pay debt service. Next one up is the wastewater fund. Again, there is a need for a rate adjustment. And there will probably need to be an allocation of probably more than $316,000 in the near future, because Dave and his crew is going through a process for upgrading the treatment plant. There's going to be retention basin at the north plant, improvements along the way to the south plant that we basically have a USDA grant and loan from that will have an impact. This will be a problem that the commission is going to have to address next year, and the year after that, and probably the year after that, in terms of the big hits. The one thing that everybody in the utility environment, when they start talking about utility fees and whatever, that city commissions and governing bodies across Kansas do not do. They're supposed to be and should be an incremental change year after year after year that keep this fund, the water fund, and some of the others in a position where you don't have to have a major rate increase like we're being faced at now. Talking with Dave, the last time this was done was I think 2006, 17. Okay. And the recommendation at that point was to make an incremental adjustment each year, and it wasn't done. It's real easy not to do that because, as a governing body, you don't like raising taxes and you don't like raising rates on utilities. And so when you don't do that, you're in a position where you have situations like what we're faced with right now for the next few years in order to address that. Those are two hard questions that have to be addressed. And I know my first year in Hillsborough, we had 4 utilities that needed rate increases. And I walked in and started talking about rate increases from the very first interview that I had before I actually started work. Your problem is your funding for the utilities is insufficient to pay for the cost. And so however many times I beat that drum, and that was June, July, by the time November and December came by, when I started talking about having the rate increases and presenting them to the city council, there were 4 rate increases that were approved unanimously, all on one night. And remarkably, no one came to the city council meeting to complain about it. Part of that is the public relations fact. I talked to the Kiwanis Club, I talked to the chamber, I talked to anybody I could about, the fact is you're going broke and you have to fix this. And, people recognize that. And then we were able to get that. The second year I needed to do it again, I was that next incremental amount. I did 3 on one night, but I had somebody come in, ask about something was going on the waterfront. We postponed that for 2 weeks and then it was approved. But needless to say, they have to be dealt with, on a regular basis in order to stay current. And the lovely picture in the background there is the aeration basin of the sewer plant. So I like dealing with dirty water. That's what that is. Anyway, airport, we get about $33,000 in revenue, and right now almost $10,000 worth of expenses. And so this pretty much describes that. And at this point, that kind of concludes the presentation related to the budget. And I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor, if you want to ask for questions of comment from people in the audience or questions from the council commission. I'll be ready to do that.
Is there any discussion from the commission, I guess? I think we've reviewed all these numbers pretty close, and
I want to thank Larry for all the work he put into this thing. It was looking pretty bleak there a few weeks back, and I appreciate all your effort to get it down to where it is.
Well,
it wasn't easy, I'm sure.
Well, actually, it was easy. I had to figure out what that number was, and then Mike told me what it was, and I go, aha, fix it. And so, that was the helpful part about it, because, as I was saying at the beginning, there were some things I just didn't understand about the way this budget was put together, and it did come together finally.
there you go. Is there any other discussions? I guess if there's no other discussions, I'd close the public hearing.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, you have to open it up for John Hughes if they have.
No, is there any comments from the public?
Now you can close the public hearing.
Now we'll close it. I've been here a long time and I've never heard a comment from the floor yet. And so,
Do I need to make the motion or did you already make the motion?
Not yet.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
motion been made and second to close the public hearing. No other comments. We'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried. Brian, you been with us all this time?
I'm here.
All right, just checking on you. Next thing on the agenda is consent agenda approval of July 11, 2022 minutes. Approval payment to J&B Contractors LLC for curb and gutter repair at Third and Kickapoo and streets in the amount of $25,454. Is there and then approval of payment to Crawford Murphy Tilley for final payment of airport KDOT project number AV 2022-10 in amount of $2,425.04. And approval of utility account refunds in the amount of $386.17.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other comments? No comments, we'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried. Next thing on the agenda, regular agenda is none, public comments, petition and memorial. The Hiawatha Chamber Visitors Bureau, Sarah Klepper.
We're here to ask about a few things for the Maple Leaf Festival, but also we have rescheduled our 5K that was supposed to be July 2nd and we had bad weather. And it's going to be August 13th and we'll need the same roads blocked. And I talked to Mickey about it. I didn't know if you guys needed to approve that again or not.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for closing the streets down for the chamber run on August 13th as discussed with Chief.
Okay. For the Maple Leaf Festival, which is September 24th.
We need to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other comments? No comments, we'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried. You can go ahead and finish.
Okay, for the Maple Leaf Festival on the 24th, we need the whole square blocked off. I gave him a map that kind of shows what we've done in the past, kind of these here on Oregon and on 6th, it's kind of an angle. We don't block off the corner over here so people can still get to the post office in the morning.
You've discussed all this. with Mickey.
And I gave him a diagram of how we've done it in the past.
Well, that's the guy you need to talk to.
And then the other thing is that in the past, the city has brought all the picnic tables up here to the square for us to use for people to sit to eat. And we'd like to request that be done. They've brought it up and just put it in the courthouse yard, and then we've placed them in the morning where they need to go.
All right.
And then Katie Miller's going to actually talk to you about our other request. We have 3 requests. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. First, I would like to thank all of you for what you do. It's never fun being in public office because you always tick somebody off. That said, we would like to request, we know that you have put in a $100 fee for food trucks. And while we completely understand that was done before, what was done after, we had already actually started advertising for Maple Leaf vendors. It's been very hard to get food trucks here. It is kind of just one of those things that's kind of the fun. It gets people out, it gets people talking, and gets that excitement going for Maple Leaf. They're already paying us a $40 fee. They're paying gas to get here, and they have the allure of larger cities like Topeka, Kansas City, and those. And so on their level of risk, we look like a risk, even though they sell out every time. And so what we're asking is if you would consider, at least for this year, waiving that fee for this year's Maple Leaf Festival, so we can still get those trucks in. And then in the future, we can let them know ahead of time that this is the way it works in our town. You then have this, I believe it's good for the year, to be able to come back if you wish. But we're just afraid that we are actually going to lose vendors due to this fee. Ooh, on the timer.
We did have quite a discussion about that on the decision of if we have them or not. You say you started to advertise.
We start advertising for Maple Leaf literally after Maple Leaf's over. We go out to all the vendors, we give them the new form, and move forward. And so they already pre-sign up literally the day of Maple Leaf for Maple Leaf
So
the
you
next year.
actually sign them up before we
Yeah.
even pass the ordinance.
Yeah,
That's what she's trying to say. And
Yeah.
so I guess with that being considered, I'd make a motion myself to just waive the fee for this year only.
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded. Brian?
I'm fine with that. I thought, if I might not remember correctly, was there a one-time fee that was less? Is that the year fee? Or is that, am I wrong on that? I thought we set it up so there was two fees.
Yeah, I was thinking there was a one-time fee and then there was one that covered the whole year. But I don't remember what the numbers were.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. So do you have a fee for something like Maple Leaf and a fee for people to come in and come and go, to park down wherever they do and sell their wares?
I think we had a fee for a single event and then a fee for the whole year. Because we have some food vendors that in the summertime, they come like once a month or
3
something.
consecutive days is $25. That's what I mean. The 3 consecutive days is $25 for it. It's $100 if you want to do it all year long.
which again, I would totally understand, and we're on board to talk with them about that. But since they weren't pre-notified, then all of a sudden it's already eating into their profits.
Well, we've already got a motion and second on the floor, so I guess we're gonna go ahead and vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys. I appreciate it. See you soon for Halloween.
Back.
Do we need a motion for blockage from the Maple Leaf?
I don't think so. You've done it that way in the past.
Thank you.
And then,
We've always done it that way, right?
yeah, and who's going
Dave.
to, who's going to do the picnic tables? Is the police department bring the picnic tables down or
No,
streets?
No, that'll
We'll
be,
figure out who it is.
Okay. Since we're on the streets.
go ahead, Dave.
This may be duplicative of what you already know, but the state of Kansas, about 3 days before I was born in 1949, made a lease with the city of Hiawatha for some acreage out in the airport area. And it was for a motor pool and a building. And the state of Kansas has their project officer, James Tubach, had corresponded with us, and I may have copied the interim city manager as well as Andy Delaney. But what they want to do, and they have money from another project to tear down that structure and increase the size of their motor pool. I don't have any problems with it. They own the building. It's a 99-year lease. They had, from my opinion, it's probably a legal matter, but their document suggests that they built a building, they own it, they have the right to tear it down according to the lease agreement. And they do want to tear it down. I just didn't want it to be a surprise to somebody that all of a sudden a building's gone from out there, whether it's a matter that you need to vote on or not. I wanted to bring it up.
Have you checked with Andy on this?
I've sent him a copy of the lease agreement that was sent to us. And there's probably an original copy with that the city has.
Well, I guess, I guess they own the building and it's in the agreement, I guess.
They got 26 years left on the lease. I made an inspection of the building exteriorly. I've been in them before. That building is in pretty sorry state of affairs. It is a very worthy structure, except the doors probably weigh several tons apiece. They're a sliding door. The door mechanisms have failed over probably 20, 30 years ago. And the storage capability of that structure is useless now. It doesn't have heat in it. The windows are failing. It's not insulated. So they're probably making we're the occasion where we're not spending money to tear something down is good news. So
Yeah, that's kind of a bonus. I don't ever hear them very often. All
so
right, I guess as far as I'm concerned, I mean, if they own the building and structure and you want to tear it down, it'd probably be an improvement.
Yeah, it's getting to be an eyesore out
Yeah.
there.
if anyone has any questions, I've got a contact number with Mr. Tubach.
I've talked to him before, so
Yeah,
I don't need to contact him.
okay,
Good
good enough. Thank you.
You bet. Do you want to vote on that or?
No, I think that's more like a
I think,
informational item.
yeah, just,
So
okay, good enough. All right, next on the agenda is Stanley Nelson.
First, I'd like to say good evening to each and every one of you. And I'm coming to talk to you about 708 Kickapoo Street. I'm sorry that I'm coming so late on this particular issue because it's designated to be demolished. And I think that it's a pretty good house and it's just been suffering from a lot of neglect. And I feel that that I could possibly bring it back to life, and it would help the individual that owns the property and that we take care of the taxes and everything and try to keep things current.
Have you notified the owners
Yes, I have.
and they agree with you?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
What's your timeline for starting work? And
Starting work, as soon as I get the paper signed, I start the next day.
Well, that's a bonus.
Yes.
I'd love to see the opportunity of you trying to fix it up if you can. That's preferred, and especially if you said your timeline is you're going to get on it.
Yes.
I think that's-
Yeah.
How much time you need, I guess?
I'm thinking about 3 months.
3 months?
3 months.
Okay.
Well, 3 months, to get it back in some, shape. But I'll be started working on it immediately.
I guess, as far as I'm concerned, we can pull it from the list. We got somebody wants to refurnish it. I mean, I'd like for guys like you to show up every day and then we wouldn't tear as many houses down, so. I guess what do we need, a motion for extension?
I think this is an informational item only, and from my view, is he now has to work with
Dave,
and
I think he's already talked to you, hasn't he, Dave?
that part's true, but I
Yeah.
think, once we see building permit application and that sort of stuff, after he owns the property, he can't do anything until he owns it.
Right.
So I think that, the progress of this situation starts with him actually owning the property, and then once Dave knows that that's going on, he can send the commission a note that says, we're underway on this piece of property. Was it 708, did you say?
Yes, sir.
Kickapoo? Then we just let her run. Let him do his work, and stay out of his way.
We don't have to do a motion to get it off the demo list.
I don't think so. You know,
Make sure
If
you
you-
tell Nick then.
Yeah, you better tell, I think we ought to just pull it off the list until the review's been done
why don't you do that?
and that way we got it clean and then we don't have any.
Why don't you do that action?
And then the rest of it can fall right into Dave's category.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When Mr. Nelson owns the property and is talking with Dave about building permit, I think that would be the appropriate time for us to pull it off the demo list. But in the meantime, if we pull it off now and Mr. Nelson can't make a deal, then we have to start all over again. So I think if he's willing to go that direction, it won't be any real difficulty for us to do our part.
I guess we just get with Dave and then if you get the thing settled, then let Dave will bring it back to us and then we'll take it off the list.
Okay,
Sound good?
that sounds good.
You bet. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Old business, none, new business, National Night Out Proclamation 2022. We'll send that all out on the website, so. Well, Mickey, good luck on your endeavor.
I was gonna make sure and tell you, you're all welcome to come, please come to it. It's my first time being in charge of it. I've never been overly active in it. We're adding Chance and Lorenzo are gonna get some basketball hoops, section off an area so they can play basketball with the kids. Stacy's giving me some balls that can be used indoors and outdoors. There's gonna be food. Police department, sheriff's office, talk to the Brown County Sheriff's Office, all the emergency responders are gonna be part of it. It's a community event where it's a positive interaction for us and the public. 99% of the time, people we interact with is negative. So it's a good event to bring the community together. August 2nd,
Come and vote and then go to the National Night
August
Out.
2nd
But we
from
can't
6.
be till after 7.
Well, you
No, you
can
can't
be,
show up
but
after 7.
you could.
Right.
You can be present, to my understanding, you can be present, but it opens the door.
Well, we
for
could
somebody
eat,
to
we
say.
could eat after 7.
So, yeah, come at 7 PM,
The leftovers.
we'll be there.
What time does it start?
6,
6.
and the polls close at 7.
Okay.
So please come.
Save me some hot dogs.
Well, them hot dogs will be ready yet. Thanks a lot, Maggie. Next thing on the agenda is next thing to consider Planning Commission Ordinance 2009 to rezone property located at 712, 714th Street from R3 residential high density to B3 business general.
Okay, can we say that again in English? I mean, from residential high density to business general. So what are we doing here?
What's that?
What are we doing? I just want a clarification.
The
Rezoning
Brown
the
County
property.
Jail, or the Brown County has purchased the lots straight south across the alley from the jail. All we're
Okay.
doing is basically
Okay.
rezoning it to coincide with what they already have.
Okay, I just was curious. So I could have asked you ahead of time, but
From the planning commission hearing, they talked about having some sort of a facility on that at some point in time for EMS activity. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's for their purpose.
thank you.
Well, it's a recommendation and usually, well, I've already reviewed it anyway, so I guess the rest of you have.
No, I was just curious. Like I said I could have asked ahead of time, but I didn't, so I wanted to ask now.
Yeah, it was a motion, we approve the planning commission's approval for 2109 for 2 locations, 712 and 714.
I'll make that motion as written.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. You got anything, Brian?
Nope, I'm all good.
All right. No other comments? We'll vote.
Commissioner Shamber,
Aye.
Commissioner Wiltie,
Aye.
Commissioner Shepherd,
All right,
Commissioner Mendor,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye, motion carried. Next thing, consider approval of 2023 budget. Is there a motion we approve the 2023 budget?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 budget as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any other comments? No other comments, we'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor, along with that, I'm going to circulate a certificate page that's going to require each member of the governing body to sign it. We'll catch you later. But there's 3 sheets to deal with, and that helps us get rid of that project tomorrow morning.
Right here. Government
Yes,
body. Okay.
yes.
Has already started. How many minutes do you need? 15. Should I go ahead and start? Mayor, I'll go into the next motion for the executive session. So I'll make a motion that the city commission recess into executive session in the conference room for 15 minutes to discuss matters of potential litigation. The justification for closing the meeting is to consult with the city attorney to discuss matters privileged under the attorney-client relationship. The open meeting will resume at 6:48 PM in the commission chambers, and to include the city commission, the city attorney via telephone, and city administrator.
Second.
Motion been made and second, go into executive session. How long?
15.
You want 15 minutes?
That's what he said.
You, Andy? Oh, you want 15?
Well,
I,
we can get by with 10.
yeah, I'd say 10's plenty.
I'm okay with 10.
So then to resume for 10 minutes, to resume at 6:43.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any other comment? None comment, we'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried.
gonna give like a little 30 seconds more, so I will actually start the phone. 30 seconds. Yeah, football game. Sure you don't want water? So I'm up here. Thank you very much. No, I'm good.
Did you and you married to him, right? Did you guys meet on Match by Chance or did you meet here in town?
We met online.
See?
Oh, we did. He grew up here and I lived here for 40 years.
I was telling Lynette, you know, I did the bar scene in college and I don't do it anymore. So I was,
This
yeah,
was
I did
second-
divorce, I
this
did
was-
online.
It's the second time for both of us. We both did it.
Oh, you were too. I read. He lost his wife. I'm gonna guess cancer. Yeah, cancer is such a outside loss for the long time. I assume that it's sad.
I just.
You had.
I did, well, I knew his folks for.
Well,
Well,
that's-
I already interrupted
that is-
part of your time, so I kind of gave you a
Oh.
little more time anyway.
If we would have been done, if we would have done 15 minutes. I said, what time did I say we're coming back in? What time did I say we're coming back in? Okay. At 6:43, the city commission is called back into an open meeting. The commission took no binding action during executive session.
Second.
Motion been made and second. No other comments, we'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried. Next thing, Mickey, do you have anything? All right, Lynette, Larry,
Sorry, I was talking to him.
Mr. Mayor, I think one of the things that I wanted to report on tonight is that Nick Saberhagen Morgan has resigned as of last week, and I've asked Herb Rowland to take his place, and he has accepted that, and he will begin August 1st, and we'll go from there. And I had some other idea, but I don't remember what it is right now.
Or the copy machines from,
Oh, okay. Lynette's been doing some work in terms of trying to figure out how to gain a little bit of advantage in the project that she started with the copiers. We are able to get desktop printers for a number of the offices in the organization for an additional $25 a month. And what that does, it saves us, in the neighborhood of what
Almost $2,000.
for the
Well.
year. So when you think about the $300 that we actually pay more against the savings of the $22,000, whatever, makes good sense. So, without objection, we're going to move in that direction. I figure it's a lot easier to save, $2,000 and spend it. So we'll move in that direction. but it,
I'd say just go ahead and move on it.
well, we need to have it in the minutes
All right.
so that there is a record of the fact that you have no objection of us moving ahead on that area. We
Okay.
don't need a motion, but we need it in here that we told you.
Well, you told us.
Okay. So,
All
Good idea.
right.
thank you.
That it, Larry?
Yes.
Yeah. I have nothing. Evans,
I have nothing tonight.
Becky?
I just wanted to wish Nick the best as he goes on to what he's doing next. I hate to see one of our department heads move on. I just, that always worries me because I think he's faced some unfair criticism through a lot of the street stuff. I think he's done a fantastic job and I just wish him luck and sad to see him go.
Anything else?
Nope.
Dave?
I'd like to just congratulate our Legion baseball team for winning the tournament down in Donovan County, and they'll be going to the state tournament. I believe Wednesday morning is the first game, so congratulations to them. I hope they do well. I want to let you know that the tree board has been going door to door. Nick and Richard did that last week to advise anyone that had ash trees on their property to try to give them some information on emerald ash borer if they haven't already heard it or read it. So
Is that the
They
ones
can-
putting the flags or the
Yep.
yellow ribbon around?
Yep.
Okay, well, I see all them.
yeah. They've been working.
Good
So
deal.
that people are made aware that we've got a problem and they can either spend money and treat it or look forward to cutting the trees down at some point. So unfortunate. That's all I have.
Well, send a message in.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to add, Dave, I saw you out there again working on some of the planters by the walking trail. I think that was you a few days ago, or
Yeah. And I'll try to
So-
keep water. Lila and I
thank you for,
pull weeds and
that's much
it's a losing
appreciated.
battle, but we're trying.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Brian, you got anything?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion we adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion been made and second to adjourn. Roll call.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried. Thanks for everybody coming out tonight. Got a short crowd, so